Hey, what is happening, you low on battery load set? So the other day on the stream, I did a set review of Silver Tempest, the new set coming out in just a couple weeks, and I talked about all the cards that I thought could have some potential impact on the format. I'm sure be sharing that with you guys all today. Before we get into it, though, I want to let you guys know that over at FullGripGames.com, they are taking pre-orders on sealed Silver Tempest product. So if you're looking to pick any of that up, I will leave a link over to the pre-order page in the description below, so go check that out. And if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to subscribe. And if you thought there was any cards that I missed that I should have taken a closer look at, let me know in the comment section down below what you think are some good cards that I should have taken a better look at that I didn't in this video. And let's go ahead, let's get into it. All right, full set review. Silver Tempest, starting off Superior V, Noble Heal. I feel like they were doing a good job of giving basic Vs good attacks, but this one definitely falls off pretty hard. Oh, it heals. Actually, it heals for 30 damage from each Pokemon in play, but that's still pretty bad. So we have stuff like Palkia and Zoroark V with like really good really good one energy attacks. Superior V, colorless, 30 damage from each, heal 30 from each Pokemon, and then Grass colorless 120. Meh. Superior V Star. I actually think there might be some potential for this Pokemon. With the Royal Tornado, Grass, double colorless, 190. Move any amount of energy from your Pokemon to your other Pokemon in any way you like. The biggest thing is that it has free retreat cost. So if you combo that with Kricketune and then Cheryl and like Big Charm, you can like move the energy off this superior to your other superiors, and then your opponent hits this superior, and then you Cheryl, retreat to a different superior, attack with that superior, repeat. Boss's orders will probably be too much to be able to make that process actually work, but I think there's some potential for that maybe. And then Coiling Star, 60 damage times the amount of for each energy attached to this Pokemon, and then you switch this Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon for a singular Grass. So not a super powerful V-Star power either. Amoonguss has a really cool, really interesting ability, but probably won't see any play. Whenever this card is discarded from your hand by the effect of your opponent's Pokemon's attacks or abilities, or by the effect of your opponent's item card or supporter card, discard all cards from your opponent's hand. So really interesting anti potential control card, I guess. I don't know. I don't think this ever works though. I don't think Amoonguss, I don't think you're ever going to make this Prank Spores work, because your opponent has to play a card that discards your Amoonguss from your hand. I don't think it's ever gonna happen. Really interesting ability though. I'm not sure what they're trying to tackle with that though. Chestnut V's not worth talking about. Radiant Serena, once in your turn you may heal 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. So this is a pretty good ability, I think, on the Radiant Serena. 20 damage from each of your Pokemon. We do currently have Gardevoir, which reduces the damage your Pokemon take from V Pokemon, but there would be some cases where you'd rather heal than prevent the damage you take. Also, Gardevoir is only against V Pokemon, so if you're getting hit by like Cramorant or Sableye spreading damage, then the Serena could be a little bit better than Gardevoir in some situations. Rapidash's got a pretty cool ability. Once on your turn, you may discard a fire energy from your hand. If you do until the end of your turn, attacks from your fire Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So powerful ability, but it's on a stage 1. And I can't think of any fire Pokemon that this would work well enough to like kind of push it to be an actual competitive deck, even like tier 3. Yeah, I'm not sure if any fire Pokemon is there any good enough fire Pokemon to combo with this to push it to even be like a tier 3 deck. Reshiram V, no shot. We're scrolling. Vulpix V. This card I think has, I don't think it's that hyped, but I think it has a unreasonable amount of hype, even for the lack of hype it has. Snow White Drop, 10 damage plus 50 more if the active is a V for 0 energy. So a pretty good, once again, 0 energy attack. Like I was talking about, the V Pokemon are getting pretty good 1 or 0 energy attacks. So pretty good 0 energy attack, to be honest. Then the Vulpix V Star, only 240 HP, so it's squishy. It is super squishy. The attack 160. This damage isn't affected by effects on your opponent's active Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. Prevent all damage done to this Pokemon from Pokemon with abilities. So a fairly okay attack, but there's a decent amount of Pokemon in the format that don't have abilities. And Path to the Peak also removes abilities, so I don't see the Vulpix being able to hang overall. If the format gets narrow enough, I guess it is possible that the Vulpix would be pretty good. but I think the format would have to be pretty narrow for this thing to actually work. And then it's got the V Star power, 70 damage detected, 70 damage times the number of your opponent's Pokemon V for 0 energy. So whenever we see attacks with the times the amount of V Pokemon in play, they're never usually that good. And even though this one does 70 times, which I think is probably the highest we've seen so far for V Pokemon in play, and even though it costs 0 energy, it's still not a great V Star power, because it's really not hard for your opponent to just be like, I'm just not going to bench past, you know, 2 V, maybe 3 V Pokemon. So not a great V Star power. Omastar's got a cool attack, but I don't think the fossil Pokemon are good enough to carry the Omastar after you put a 2 prize Pokemon in your active. It only has 190 HP. Ancient Guidance for a colorless. Search your deck for up to 2 cards that evolve from item cards with fossil in their name. Put them onto your bench, then shuffle your deck. But you're leaving an Omastar in your active, so I don't think it's worth the trade-off. Probably better ways to get your fossil Pokemon in play, like the Lugia V Star. Let's see who we got next. Maybe skipped a couple interesting cards here. I read over all of them before. None of them really seemed that ridiculously good or worth talking about that I can remember. I got the... We'll talk about Lucky VMAX, even though I don't think it's going to be very good. Once again, the first attack on the basic V is pretty good. For a lightning, 30 damage, switches one of your bench Pokemon. So the same thing as Zoroark V, except Zoroark does it for 0 energy. And then get the lightning wall for 100. And then during your opponent's turn, you take 100 less for lightning colorless. Which I think this could be pretty cool when you evolve to the VMAX, if you put a memory capsule on it and then use this attack as the attack, maybe. And then the VMAX 3, 10 HP. It is a VMAX though. The attacks of your basic lightning Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon is the ability, which is good, but only basic lightning Pokemon do the extra damage. So I don't know what you're comboing this with to get enough value out of that from basic Pokemon instead of other lightning VMAXs or V Stars. And then 220 during your next turn, this Pokemon can't attack for lightning double colorless. And it's finally, we got a Regilucky that has free retreat, which has taken a while because it is like the fastest Pokemon in the video game or whatever. Radiant Alakazam, Spoonful of Pain. Once your turn, you may move up to 2 damage counters from one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Another pretty solid Radiant Pokemon with an interesting ability. I don't know how good it will be, but I definitely think it's cool. It's definitely interesting. And it's got the Mind Ruler attack for 20 damage for each card in your opponent's hand, which is not great. But besides Greninja and Charizard, none of the Radiant Pokemon really have ridiculously strong attacks. So that's fine. It's all about the ability. You get enough damage in play, enough extra damage in play, you can move it around with Spoonful of Pain. So possibly good with some kind of spread deck, I guess. This plus Scoop Up Net would be pretty cool. You spread some damage in play, and then you Scoop Up Net the Alakazam, use it a couple times, move the damage around where it becomes more effective, and it could be like okay. It would kind of be like a nerfed Lele Pokemon in the past that allowed you to move all of your opponent's damage counter on their Pokemon in any way you wanted. But that did require an attack, so that's when you're kind of doing through the ability. Got the Jinx with a pretty powerful ability. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from your opponent's Pokemon V's attack, your opponent doesn't take a prize card. So if it's knocked out by V Pokemon, they don't take a prize card. And you got side damage for 2 colorless energy, so a twin or DTE will get you there. And it does 10 plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So I actually think this card is pretty strong. I don't know what you would play it with. You could play it in like Arceus decks, because you could like attack with Arceus into a V or a V Star, or a V Star or V Max, and then clean it up with the Jinx. And then when they knock out the Jinx, they don't get a prize card. So I actually think this card is pretty powerful, and we'll probably see play at some point. Seems good in Arceus decks, but will Arceus decks be good? They're kind of slipping a little bit right now in the format, so I don't know if this is going to be good moving forward for sure. Miss Magus, if this Pokemon is at max HP and is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, place. Okay, I hadn't seen this one before, but it's not good. Unknown with the victory symbol for 3 colorless energy. If you have 1 prize card left when using this attack, you win. So interesting attack on the unknown, but triple colorless is going to be pretty hard to set up consistently. So, and especially this would be in a situation where you're like ahead in the game. So I don't know how good this will actually be, but there's some potential with it, especially like if you're playing a deck with double turbo energy. They knock out, they take a knockout, you're at 1 prize card already. There's nothing in play you can KO. You can like bench Unknown V plus Raihan the energy on, plus go get double turbo, and then you're attacking with victory symbol, possibly. The Unknown V Star is actually considerably worse than the Unknown V. And yeah, for a Psychic, flip 2 coins. For each heads, you do 70. So not a great attack. and then Star Cipher for triple colorless. Until this Pokemon leaves play, it gains an ability that has the effect all of your opponent's Pokemon. Pokemon's weakness is now Psychic, but you have to put this in your active for a turn to attack with, and then has to stay in play. And if that does happen, I guess this could be okay, but I'm assuming this is going to get KO'd before you could get relevance out of the ability it gained after you put in your active to attack with for a turn. So Unknown V's got some potential. I think the V Star is probably not very good. We're getting trade again, this time on a Kirlia. The ability Refine. Once during your turn, you may discard a card and then draw 2 cards. So once Cincino rotates, we'll have Kirlia to work with as another trade Pokemon. Actually, this one even has less HP than our current trade Pokemon. We got Cincino, and Liepard has like 100 HP. Cincino's got 90. Now we're getting the Kirlia with 80, which is cool because it can be level balls for. So we'll still have that around as a target to level ball. Mawile is trash, so we're going to keep moving on. Not worth reading. Actually, we might just be going through most of the Psychic Pokemon here. Arcanine V, as often as you like during your turn, you may move a Fighting Energy from one of your Pokemon to this Pokemon as the ability. And then for colors, you do 90 plus 30 more for each Fighting Energy attached to this Pokemon. So I actually think Arcanine could be cool as like a deck where you choose to go second and try and gain ahead, try and gain tempo. You go second, attack turn 1 with Rock Bullet through the Zapdos. When the Zapdos, when you put it in play from your hand, you can attach 2 Fighting Energy to it. So try and attack turn 1, going second with Arcanine V. Just get ahead on tempo and try and maintain that tempo towards the end of the game. Could be okay. We'll see though. It only has that 230 HP, so if your opponent had like a decent turn 1, you're probably not going to be able to keep up the big hits with the Rock Bullet. I mean, you could theoretically do like, 280 damage with Rock Bullet, but that's pretty hard to do consistently, so maybe just a cool meme donk deck at the end of the day. But definitely worth trying, I think, nonetheless. Ursaluna V. I don't think I've seen this Pokemon yet, but it looks bad, so we're going to keep going. Boom, keep going, keep going, keep going. No Dark Pokemon, no Metagross. The Jirachi, Radiant Jirachi. I'm super excited for this card. It is a meme, but it's a very cool meme. If this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand, and then it has the attack Stellar Doom for double colors. Flip 2 coins if both are heads. Your opponent's active is now knocked out. So there was that Cleaver deck that had this exact same attack, but it's a stage 1. And when it gets knocked out, you don't get to search your deck for any 3 cards, but the Radiant Jirachi does. So this card is going to be super sick because you're going to be able to play it with Rescue Carriers, Twin Energy, and Double Turbos with 4 of the Glimwood Tangle. And I don't even know what you'll play past that, because when a Jirachi gets knocked out, you can go search your deck for Rescue Carrier to get Jirachi, Energy, plus 1 card. So as long as you have a pivot in play, you're all good. So I don't even know what else you'll play with this. But I'm sure you'll play something, maybe the Unknown, or you'll probably play Slowbro as well. Slowbro, maybe the Unknown, something like that. Just other ways to draw prize cards that don't involve actually setting up an attacker. So I'm actually super excited for Radiant Jirachi. I think this card is going to be super sick as a deck. It's not going to be competitive. It could be, but I doubt it. But it's going to be super sick to play with no matter what. Definitely excited for the Jirachi. That might even be the first deck I play with, to be honest, when when this set drops. Reggie Drago V Star, probably going to be the second best deck coming out of the format if I had to guess as of right now. The Reggie Drago V's got that Heavenly Scream for a colorless. Discard the top 3 cards of your deck and attach any energy cards you find there to this Pokemon, and then Grass Fire for 130 and 30 damage snipe to a bunch of Pokemon. So actually the second attack is relevant, but probably to use through the Reggie Drago V Star that has the Dragon Dream. Choose the attack from a Dragon type Pokemon in your discard pile and use it as this attack. So you could possibly copy the Dragon Laser from the V, but there's so many other options that you can copy with this, like the Giratina V Star, Goodra V Star. There's a Dragonite coming out in this set that I actually skipped. That's not good by itself, but will definitely be good with the Reggie Drago. And the Dragonite does for Water, Lightning, Colorless, 180. Search your deck for up to 3 basic energy cards and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. So you're not going to be getting out of stage 2 Dragonite, but you could be getting one into the discard pile and then be copying it with the Reggie Drago V Star instead, and copy that attack 180, set up your next Reggie Drago, and so forth. So going to be using like that. And the ability, pretty costly, but some added consistency to the deck for sure. I think it's going to be more of an emergency button than something you try and use turn 2 every game like a Starbirth. But once on your turn, you may discard the top 7 cards from your deck and then choose any 2 cards from your discard pile, reveal them, and put them to your hand. So any 2 cards in your discard pile, pretty good. but at the cost of discarding the top 7 cards of your deck, it's pretty costly. So you're not going to be wanting to like rush to use Legacy Star turn 2, I don't think, with this deck. That's like a pretty costly cost. And probably the best deck coming out of the set is by far going to be the Lugia V Star. We've already seen a couple results from Japanese tournaments, and looking like the new BDIF. We'll see though. Lugia V, when reading, discard a card from your hand. If you do, draw 3 cards. So once again, pretty good attack on the V Pokemon that we've been getting on the V Pokemon for colors. 130, you may discard an studying card in play. So that attack's not great for that cost. But then the Lugia V Star for colors, you're doing 220. Once again, you may discard a stadium in play if you want. And it's got the Assemble Star ability, and this is what makes the card so good. You may use this during your turn, choose up to 2 colors Pokemon from your discard pile, except for Pokemon with a rule box, and then put them onto your bench. Which we have some decent options in the format now. You see like a B-Barrel or something, but we're also getting this Archeops with the Primal Turbo. Once on your turn, you may search your deck for up to 2 special energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So turn 2, theoretically, you can evolve to your Lugia, put 2 Archeops in play, and then those Archeops can go search your deck for 4 special energy and put them in play wherever you want, which is absurd. And there's a ton of good special energy in the format right now. Powerful energy, gift energy, double turbo energy, twin energy, aurora energy. There's more past that too, but I think they actually kind of fall off quite hard after those. I think it's most of the good ones, which is insane and gives you a lot of options. And yeah, Lugia is going to be a tier 1 deck for sure. Hopefully it's not too good. And the other ones can compete with it, but I have a fear that Lugia might be the new dominant force, like we saw Palkia and Mew be when they first released. Ho-Oh-V is kind of cool. Got the ability, once on your turn, if this card's in your discard pile, you may put this card onto your bench. If you do, attach up to 4 basic energy cards from your discard pile to this Pokemon. If you use this ability, though, your turn ends. So your turn ending kind of stinks, but if you do this on the first turn of the game, you could theoretically play a deck, kind of like a toolbox deck with like 4 energy switches, and this just kind of becomes your energy you've excelled into play for the turn, and you energy switch off it throughout the rest of the game to set up your attackers and attack with them. So some cool Ho-Oh-V toolbox decks I could see happening. Moving on to the trainer cards. Got that Brandon. You can only use this card if it's the last card in your hand. Draw a card for each bench Pokemon in play, so pretty powerful draw power, but at the trade-off of being the only card in your hand, it's not going to see any play. Candace, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You may reveal any number of water Pokemon and water energy you find there and put them into your hand. I could see some Inteleon engines being built around this card, possibly, because you'd use it, you get Drizzles or Inteleons or whatever, put them into your hand, get some water energy to work with. Maybe some kind of Frostmoth box decks as well. Because top 7 is quite a bit, and you could theoretically get like 7 cards, so that's like potentially pretty good. It's probably not going to be that good though. We'll see. Yeah, probably just a worse Irida overall. Irida guarantees too much good stuff. Capture Aroma from the point of head, search your deck for an evolution Pokemon, reveal it, and put it to your hand. If tail, search your deck for a basic Pokemon, reveal it, put it to your hand. If you search your deck in this way, shuffle your deck. So yeah, interesting card, Capture Aroma. Probably not worth the risk in the current meta. But if when rotation happens, if we don't get other Pokemon search cards, we could all be using Capture Aroma as our way to find our Pokemon, which sounds terrible. So hopefully that is not the case. Yeah, hopefully this has not become the standard 4 of in every single deck after rotation. Earthen Seal Stone. For 3 colors energy, you put all of your opponent's V Pokemon to 10 or 100 HP remaining, which is okay. But if your opponent knows you play this, then they just don't have to overbench their V Pokemon and can kind of put them in play later. I think there's potential for this card in a couple decks, but a lot of decks currently have V Star powers that they rely on pretty heavily, so I don't think it's going to be that ridiculously strong. We'll see though. Emergency Jelly. At the end of each turn, if the Pokemon this card is attached to has 100 or has 30 HP remaining or less, and has any damage counters on it, heal 120 damage from that Pokemon, then discard this card. I can't think of a tank deck that this would be good in, but it's possible there are some out there for specific situations where this could come into play, but I don't see the Emergency Jelly seeing very much play. Forest Seal Stone. This is kind of the bigger of the 2 V-Star Power tool cards coming out of this set, but really only for Mew VMAX, because it has like a weird interaction with Path to the Peak. So during your turn, you may search your deck for any one card and put it to your hand. So Mew VMAX doesn't play any sort of V-Star power currently, which means I guess you could honestly play Earthen Seal Stone in Mew as well, to be honest, and that wouldn't actually be terrible. But the Forest Seal Stone is probably going to be the better of 2 for something for like Mew VMAX, and because of the interaction of it being on the tool card and not on the Pokemon. Path to the Peak actually doesn't stop you from using this on your turn if Path to the Peak is in play. So if you're a Mew player and you get Rock Sand Path, you can just activate your Earth or your Forest Steel Stone and go search out a stadium, bump the path, and then draw a bunch of cards with Genesect and win the game. So that's a curious ruling on the card. I can understand it, I guess, because pass shuts down the abilities on the V Pokemon, not on the item card attached to the V Pokemon. But yeah, hopefully it doesn't make Mewtwo good. But I don't even know if Mew will be able to compete with Lugia, so we have to find out that first. I think that pretty much covers all of the supporter cards. There's Lance, searches for your deck for 3 Dragon Pokemon. Could be good in Reggie Drago, but seems a little bit slow. There is the Leafy Camo Poncho. If the Pokemon this card to attach to is a Pokemon V Star or Pokemon V Max, whenever your opponent plays a supporter from their hand, prevent all effects of that card done to that Pokemon. So this is pretty interesting because you could put it on a benched V Star or V Max, but you have to get it to the V Star or V Max before it is KO'd as a V Pokemon. So I think that's kind of the weird part about this card. But then you would prevent Boss from actually being able to gust it into the active and then KO it later on. So this could be an interesting card to, like, after your VMAX or V-Star takes a hit, you retreat it, put a Poncho on it, and then it can't be bossed and KO'd later. Primordial Altar, look at the top card of your deck and you may discard it. This seems like it probably won't be good until potentially Pokestop rotates, because it seems like if you were ever going to play this, Pokestop is probably just a better option most of the time, and stuff like Reggie's or Sablezard or anything like that. So yeah, not a huge fan of this while Pokestop is in the format. Last supporter here, most powerful supporter, Serena. Discard up to 3 cards from your hand. You must discard at least 1 card, and then draw them until you have 5 cards in your hand. Or you can switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active Pokemon. So it either is a boss on bench V Pokemon, or it's a draw supporter. So that's pretty powerful, especially when most of the time, most decks, when they're gusting up bench Pokemon, they're gusting up Pokemon V. So if all of your bosses could substitute as a draw supporter, that's pretty powerful. That's a pretty big upgrade on your boss's orders. So I think most decks that play heavy counts of boss's orders will switch to like a split of like 2 boss and 2 this if you played a heavy counted boss. And some decks will probably exclusively play Serena over boss's orders, like Reggie decks or something like that. So this card is definitely powerful. It will probably be played in most decks because the amount of value out of both effects is so strong. And yeah, like I said, most of the time when you're using boss, you're gussing up V Pokemon, so you may as well also have the option where if you'd rather draw cards with your boss's orders, you can draw cards instead. So super powerful supporter card, and we'll be seen in like I said, probably in most decks. For the special energies, we got the regenerative energy. Whenever you play a Pokemon from your hand to evolve the Pokemon V, this card is attached to you. You heal 100 damage from that Pokemon, so it could be okay in maybe Lugia. I can't think of too many other decks that this would be good into. And then a card that'll definitely be good in the Lugia deck will be the V-Guard energy, and hopefully in other stuff as well it'll be good in. As long as this card is attached to as a Pokemon, it provides colorless energy, and then it takes 30 less damage from the attacks of your opponent's Pokemon V. But you can't stack multiple effects of V-Guard energy. So you can only have one V-Guard. You only get the effects of 1 V-Guard energy per Pokemon that it's attached to. Or for each. If you have 2 V-Guard energy on a Pokemon, you're still only taking 30 less damage from attacks of Pokemon V. And it is only Pokemon V, but of course Pokemon V are the main attackers in the format right now. So we'll see. This will definitely be a great card in Lugia, but definitely potential in some other like tank decks or stall decks as well. Could create some decks like that, because it's definitely a very powerful effect on an energy card. But more fuel for Lugia, so that's going to be scary. And that's going to do it for my Silver Tempest set review.